Hello to everyone out there in Anderson Township. This is your February edition of Anderson Speaks here on Anderson Community Television. I'm your host, Kyle Densler, and I'm here to welcome back a guest who I had the privilege of sitting down with probably a year or two ago, might have been longer. But with me is our friend Steve Jones. Steve, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks, Kyle. It's always good to be back. It's always good to talk about new stuff.
Absolutely. It's always been interesting when we have had a chance to chat. Have you been on the show since we originally spoke? Because I know I missed
One time,
so
yes.
often.
It's something different. I did internet banking,
Yes, I remember that.
which is what we talked about, and I was on with a Russian art show because talking about Russian art.
Yes, no, that was me as well.
Yeah,
I remember
yes.
that. There we go.
I only come back when you're here, Kyle.
3 for 3. I like it. I like it. Steve is here. I really think this topic is garbage.
It is.
If I may just
Good garbage.
just take it there. Steve is here to talk about a very interesting concept that when I received the info about it, immediately piqued my interest. Applicable in so many ways. Go ahead and introduce that topic and then just run with whatever you want.
Garbage to energy is what we're talking about today, basically, or totally. About 3 years ago, our company, Japor, works very closely with high-tech products around. We specialize in high-tech products. I was asked to take a look at technology related to turning standard garbage, municipal waste, into gasifying it, turning it into electricity. The first company we took a look at and talked to that asked us to help them commercialize the plant got to, after a few months, they didn't go anywhere. So I had already, when you're in the technology business, we had to go to college on waste to energy. So we said, we don't want to leave this because it's too good, there's too many things going, and there's a lot of new improvements. So myself and a couple of partners took a few months and looked at 14 or 15 different places, ran into Pyrolyzer, which is where we are here, which is a German-developed pyrolysis gasification system. And that takes carbon, turns it into gas, and you can make electricity with it or other things. There were 2 or 3 differences that were really special about this one that we liked. Pyrolysis is gasification with no added oxygen. Incineration, regular gasification, all use oxygen to maintain the heat. This is a low temperature system, and since there's no added oxygen, there's no dioxins and furans, which go into to pollute the ozone and all that kind of stuff. And they had a series of reactors built into the system to clean out all tars and oils that could go into the atmosphere or into the system. And they had a series of internal scrubbers. So the Germans had done 2 or 3 things in sort of their BMW way or their Mercedes way that other folks that we'd seen around the country had not done. Low temperature, low pressure, and what it does is, if I can just sort of think of a donut, and whatever you're putting through it, and this will take basically any type of waste carbon from rubber, plastics, municipal solid waste with the glass and the metal is taken out because there's no BTU value, so you sort all those out and just put the paper and plastics and all that stuff through it. But you have a donut on the inside. You have where your garbage is, or whatever, the feedstock. We call it feedstock it could be anything. And you have a tube around it. The tube around it is burning. It is gas that's fired. And what the process is, the chemical process, is you put your garbage or your coconut husks or whatever through it. It heats to gasify, just to gasification. Nothing burns inside. Nothing catches on fire in that tube. It's programmed to heat just before ignition, and that throws off gas. 20% of the gas that's thrown off is used to keep the heat in the outer tube. 80% is sucked off and taken to a gas turbine or a gas engine to turn and make electric power. Wow. So it does a couple of things. It gets rid of municipal solid waste from landfill, which can create all sorts of issues with mercury and things like that in the future. It makes electric relatively inexpensively. The thing that we have, as we've taken a look, it's been it's always a learning process when you're moving into new things. And that's the reason right now we're working mostly in Japan and Europe instead of the United States. We're working some of the United States, but Japan and Europe, because in the U.S., our tipping fees, which is what people pay to put garbage in the dump, are about 30 or 40 bucks a ton. If we go to Germany, it's $110 a ton.
A lot more incentive.
A lot more incentive for them to also, they have less land. We have plenty of land here. So that's an issue. So you get paid more over there. They get paid more to take it. Natural gas in here, because of fracking, and fracking, has opponents and proponents and all that kind of stuff. But it keeps natural gas today 3 or 4 bucks a million BTU. But in Germany, which they get it from Russia, it's like 15 bucks a million BTU. So also, the overall cost for power there is 3 or 4 times it is here. So for a system like ours, we save their land and make power cheaper than they're making it today. And in Japan, I've been fascinated. I was just in Japan about 6 weeks ago. Again, I've been a couple of times. They have the tsunami, and they have, that's a whole nother story of the way they've handled it. But with the tsunami, they're shutting down, of course, a lot of their power for the entire country. And what we did find over there, their forest ministry, which I didn't know, has forestry guilds. Probably very few people that were talking here today too. No, I didn't know until about a year or so ago. And those guilds manicure the forests to make sure there's no forest fires, make sure there's keeps down insects, etc. So they have guilds all across northern Japan where the forests are. They manicure those, and basically today they burn the wood. So we went through and went across northern Japan and said, for 2 to 3 megawatt power plants that'll serve a lot of the villages and outside of the villages, how big an area can we put one? So we've sort of outlined the first few to 10 or 15 where we can, and we went back 10 years. So there's enough 10-year history that there will be enough waste in this area to put a plant in the middle of it. So that should be good for going forward. And we're working through the first one right now. In fact, today some of the folks from Japan are in Germany, and I didn't go on this trip. And then we'll be back for a final presentation the end of this month.
Wow.
But that, what that does is it clears up the wood waste. It solves them from incinerating and putting things in the air. And they get electric, which they need today because of their the nuclear issues that they've had. So, but this will take, the thing I love about this, it's clean, the flue gases that come off of this plant, because they've been scrubbed and everything, are basically like your home gas furnace, or a gas engine, or a gas engine in a car, something like that, which is cleaner than most others, just about any other fossil fuel, some sort of fossil fuel. And then that's why we're partnering with a company called Agrone, which is a greenhouse manufacturer. And if we can put a few plants, and this will probably be in the U.S., if we can put some plants, power plants next to it, small power plants, maybe in places like we're talking in Vermont, a 2 or 3 megawatt plant next to it, using all the wood waste in Vermont. There's enough for 3 or 4 plants in Vermont using their standard wood waste, not having to cut anything. We can pump the CO2 into the large greenhouse, because they're talking a minimum 40-acre greenhouse, and large greenhouses have to buy CO2 because the plants suck it up and it helps them grow.
Wow.
So until 2 years ago, I didn't know they bought a lot of CO2.
Everyone's like, we got to lower CO2, we got to load this and that. And it's just like, there are people buying it.
There are people buying it. Not enough. I mean, not enough, but that way you can make power and have power that has 0 CO2 in the atmosphere.
Wow.
By co-locating with them.
Wow.
So that's a big internal program for us, working with them closely. And there are a couple of foundations that we're working with that want to promote that very strongly.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So my question has to do with any sort of byproducts. But before I get there, let me see if I can reiterate this. We take your typical garbage, like household garbage that's collected.
Yes.
Any you talked about a few things that have to take out. This has to be sorted. And what sort of things are they going to remove that just can't go in there or is not necessary to go in?
Metal and glass.
Okay.
Everything else can go through. And the reason you do that, the system basically would take it. It has to be cut down to about 2 inches chunks for uniformity, so that the gasification, you don't have a great big piece that didn't gasify. Everything has to be uniform. And that way the timing through the system is set for that uniformity. But it'll go through it. But as the Germans told me twice, why put in something that does no BTU?
Right. So you're saying it'd be like putting a bunch of stuff in. It's not going to affect
like
the
putting
system.
sand through.
Nothing's going to come out.
Nothing's going to come out. You don't get anything. So, but then there's also value. Now, the one thing that we would put through is tires, because we've done tire tests. We don't have a plant for tires yet, but we can build one. You cut the tires up, and tires have all the steel belts in it. So with all the tire tests through the system in Germany, just the little pieces of steel come out. So it's cheaper than trying to blow it off, or people are doing all sorts of different things to try to get the steel broken out of a tire. But this just, you gasify the rubber and it comes right off, and you got little pieces of steel left over.
So you talked about the temperature being right before it's going to ignite. So is each plant attuned to a specific product that it's gasifying?
Yes.
It's like one would be for tires, one would be for paper, one would be for plastics.
Yes. Now you can, if you have Cincinnati, Ohio, and they have enough to run the plant half a year on tires and half a year on garbage, what you do, because generally there is some value in the byproduct, which is the 20% that comes out the other side, is consistent. It would just be a software change. So you can build a plant to have a switch, and then so you just sort of run all the tires through, start the other stuff, and you lose a little bit of consistency in your byproduct for a day. But yes, that can be done 3 or 4 different ones.
So once everything goes through, the heat basically gasifies it. So what is that gas that's being released that we're using?
It's It's in one of our brochures there. It's basically been certified as an equivalent to natural gas.
Okay.
It is hydrogen, methane, all the ethanes, all the tanes, all the tanes as far as a mixture, and because you don't use and burn up the oxygen, need oxygen to burn it up. I think standard BTU out for a limited oxygenation plant, maybe 100 BTU value in the gas. This is like 400 or 500 BTU. Wow. I mean, because
there's no oxygen taking space.
Because there's no oxygen. Well, and you've left your hydrogen and you left your methane and stuff in there. So it's higher. It's a better quality gas, and the National Gas Institute has certified it as a natural gas.
Wow.
To use.
So what's left if you don't have metals or glass? Because I read an article several years ago about what's probably a similar process. They were taking garbage, but I don't know if it was incineration or something, but whatever the process was, it was creating energy through a gas or through something else. But they had a byproduct that was some sort of like I don't know if it was like a tar or something, and they were just using it in roads and things like that. So what is the leftovers from this process?
Well, there are gasification pieces of equipment that have fairly heavy leftover tars. And incineration, what you have with the bits and pieces of metal are glommed together. So there's a tremendous cost to break it back apart or landfill that part. What the Germans here in this system did, they put a series of what they call 3 reactors that take the bits and pieces of tar, because tar comes off as it gasifies. It sucks that up and runs it through a reactor to break it down, specifically to break it down with a little higher heat each time. Really? But it's small inside, but it just breaks it down 3 levels and turns it into gas. So compared to the other pieces of equipment I've seen, this is probably 30 to 40% more efficient because it does that, because it uses more of the product. And what comes out is basically pieces of black charcoal. In effect, you've sort of sequestered some more charcoal, some more carbon. And so if you use straight wood, it's very valuable as fertilizer, because it comes out as a captured carbon. It can be used for cleaning up spills and can just be used direct on a farm. And in Japan, they have three options that they're considering for their byproduct. One is to compress it into charcoal, because basically it's straight charcoal, sell it to sushi bars in Tokyo. The second is to sell some of it because most of these places in the north are near where a lot of the rice paddies are grown, tremendous rice fields. So they can use it as some fertilizer there. And the third is to run it back through the system again and maybe have in one of their machines a fourth reactor that breaks it down a little bit further.
Wow.
So they're bending right now because of the price of electric in Japan of running it back through with a slight modification to the piece of equipment. But in other places, they may want the agricultural need for stuff.
Does each plant have multiple reactors, or can they have one reactor?
Each plant that we have has at least 3 reactors.
And let's say we have a load of garbage. Does that go through each reactor, or do the reactors do different things? Like one is for the tar to go back through, one's for maybe the charcoal leftovers?
All 3 are for the tar and oils to go back through to break it down and put it back into more gas. So
Wow.
everything doesn't go through it. Tough little pieces of carbon or tars or oil cycle through the reactors. The rest of the stuff just goes straight.
But ultimately, any leftover byproduct, anything like that, still has some sort of value.
Yes.
It's not like nuclear waste we're storing somewhere.
No, and what you said there with some of the tars and oils, if you're using straight MSW, we generally say it should be used for something like a road base or something like that. There are several others uses, but basically you're not sure what people put into it. And in some countries, if you check it thoroughly and make sure there is, less than 1 billion parts mercury, because somebody put some batteries in or something like that, that's about the best place for it. If it's wood, you have those 3 things we talked about that Japan can use. If you use rubber or you use non-recyclable plastics, that creates basically a coke. It's very solid. Charcoal.
Yeah.
And so it can be sold for coking in steel, which means you don't have to go dig it out of the ground anymore.
Coke it's denser.
It's
higher
denser.
burning?
It's denser, higher, hotter burning.
I remember that from middle school.
You got
science.
it. You got it. It's exactly that because it's a more concentrated, heavier carbon. It's carbon, but it's the same thing. So you can briquette that and sell it to a steel mill.
Well, I have not asked a single question. Hardly, but I think we've covered everything.
My fault. I just keep
time.
talking.
No, I told you to run with it. You did a fantastic job. I did not expect any less. I guess regulatory issues.
There are always
and then
regulatory
where can people
issues.
go if they want more information on this?
Yeah.
Just for those interested.
The regulatory issues are standard. We work with the EPA or any of those folks because when you're doing a power plant, there's a lot of complexities. You have air permits and you have water permits and you have all those things because even though we use very little water, we can be an additive of water if there's wet trees that go in or whatever for some reason. We use very little water, but the EPA is really looking forward to us moving forward because this is as clean a system as they've seen. So
That's what I would expect.
They want
why
it
would they
to
not
work.
be jumping up and down?
They really want it to work, and they want us to bring it on and do things with it. But still, the first one we have in the United States, that we're working on one actually in the Midwest that we're just starting to begin to work through, but it'll probably take at least 6 months to get the permits through because any permit for a large or semi-large facility, just something new, you have to work through the process.
Steve, I apologize. We're out of time. Real quick, where can they go just on the internet maybe to find more info?
www.pyrolizerllc.com or call Steve Jones.
All right, Steve, thank you for being on the
Thanks,
show
Kyle.
again.
Yeah.
Steve's got a jet. We'll be right back with the next guest, so stick with us. Thanks. Welcome back to Anderson Speaks. We are here with our next guest. He is another repeat visitor here to the show. Cameron Corbin joined us several years ago to talk about his experience as he prepared and ultimately multiple times took the ACT test. Cameron, if you could remind everybody what the outcome of that was.
Sure. Yeah. The first time I took the ACT, I got a 28. I was a little bit disappointed with that and didn't want to stop there. And I worked really hard, did a bunch of work prep for the class, did a bunch of example tests, and took it again, got a 30. Still wasn't satisfied, did a lot more tests at my house, and then ended up with a 32, which ended up giving me a 50% scholarship for my current college, the University of Dayton, which I was very excited about getting.
And you and I were talking just before we started taping. I had not heard that story. I wasn't able to host that show, unfortunately. But our wonderful Dick Murgatroyd, or the Murg, as he likes to be called, filled in for me, and I'm sure he did a fantastic job. I was absolutely blown away by that because, as we were talking about, the closer you get to that 36, every single digit increase is an exponential increase in how schools see you and what they're able to offer you. So to go right in with half of your college paid for, we could do a whole show on the cost of a college degree and whether it's even worth it. Ooh, there's something controversial. But the cost of a college degree nowadays and going to that. So you're already ahead of the game in that you're the typical student at UD, you're going to start with half the debt they have if you're smart. Yeah. So that's congratulations on that. But really cool story what he was telling me. So, but you're here not to relive glory days, but to talk about what it is you're into now. You are a sophomore at the University of Dayton.
Yep.
Go Flyers.
Yep.
And you're here just to share that experience because I think you helped a lot of folks. It was very eye-opening with your first story, and then you're back just to throw out whatever can stick and what can help folks. So walk us through the start of your freshman year, deciding what major you wanted to study, if you even did. I know a lot of people go several years without doing that or change their mind like I did halfway through. But where did you start and where has it steered you since?
Sure. Actually, I have a really interesting story. Back at St. X, a lot of the clubs that I did.
Yes, you're a graduate of St. X 2012, correct?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. A lot of the clubs that I did at St. X were. Yeah, St. X
Okay,
Bombers.
right.
Yeah.
So you went the Bombers to the Flyers. I see a theme here. but you're not going for flight or anything.
No.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to
But
make
yeah,
that connection.
But yeah, at St. X, I did 2 years of mock trial and 2 years of Model UN, and also was in the St. Xavier government all 4 years, the final year being the student leader of a freshman homeroom. So I was always very involved with politics in the school, and I always loved history. I actually got an award freshman year for having the highest overall grade in the history department out of the other 350 or 360 other students, which was very impressive at the time. And I actually still have it framed up in my room just because of how proud I am of that. And I was always thinking, I want to go in and be pre-law in college. I want to go in and be a lawyer. But my senior year, I was heavily influenced by a AP chemistry teacher that I had that was absolutely wonderful, Dr. Hamelli, who's actually still teaching at St. Xavier. And through his labs and through his teaching and kind of the stuff that we talked about, I really became very interested in chemistry. And I kind of wanted to take what we did in the lab, and I was like, you know what, I could see myself doing this in my later life. And so I started out thinking, what jobs would involve chemistry that would be interesting? And I'm like, I'll take a look at chemical engineering. This might be for me. I can, work in a plant and design processes and stuff, and work in a lab and maybe do R&D research for different chemical companies and stuff. And so I shopped around for a lot of the colleges in Ohio and saw which places had the best chemical engineering programs, and it looked like UD had a really wonderful chemical engineering program, and so I looked there and I did a summer camp that was about a week that was just pure engineering for honors students, and it was really fun, and we built popsicle bridges and all this other stuff, and I was like, oh, engineering's fun. Build bridges out of popsicles, you make tables out of cardboard and test the load-bearing weight that they can have and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm going to, take this as my major and probably have this for my career. And then I got to the University of Dayton and actually saw my classes and started them, and I was like, oh, calculus and physics and all these other fun classes that are actually difficult, and it's not building bridges out of popsicles anymore. And so my whole freshman year, my GPA didn't turn out very well the first semester. I wasn't doing very well. Besides the fact that I had a couple of health issues, I just was totally not expecting it. I pretty much had been sold on the fact that at every single presentation for colleges that I'd been to, they all said, chemical engineers will make the most money. You'll make $70,000 when you leave. Every company will want you. There's never a dry amount of chemical engineers, pretty much. You'll always be needed somewhere. And I was pretty much sold on that. And the sad thing that I really regret is that at every presentation, their salary information was always the first slide on the page. And I was thinking that's kind of the hook that they get you to, go into the program, to always kind of throw the, the big salary numbers in your face and say, oh, look at this person. He even made, $120,000 at BP at his first year out of college. And you just think, wow, that could be me. I could be driving like BMW at the age of like 22 and working for BP. But
no, hey. When you're in your 30s, you're still going to wish you could do that.
Yeah.
So, no, I think it's interesting that you talk about the schools using that as a hook, because schools are a business. They need to bring in certain amounts of funds. It's just done different ways than a typical, Sony or somebody who makes a product. But they have to get that in. I think it's funny that you're talking about wanting to make them a lot of money. I kind of feel like your first love of politics would probably start you out a lot more from things I've been reading about these different politicians and stuff. But what happened to you once you got into these classes and realized, you were struggling and stuff, you said?
Yeah.
What happened, or what was the final straw, or what was where you kind of had your eyes open, you're like, maybe I need to do something different?
Yeah, the final straw, because at St. X, I was always a straight A student. I had a 4.0 GPA. I had A's in pretty much every single class, and nothing was really too difficult. When I got into calculus...
Do you think that kind of hurt you, though?
It kind of hurt.
When things aren't difficult and everything's easy?
Yeah, it might have hurt me a little bit, but I was always told that, St. X was the hardest high school in the area, and I was always thinking, well, if it's the hardest high school, and everybody's saying that, then, college can't be too difficult. And if I'm doing perfectly fine, I shouldn't be, having too much problems with, calculus and physics. But the thing that really broke the camel's back was me getting my first C in a class, and that was in calculus. And it was a very low C. It was almost a D. And I was just absolutely just stunned. I was like, I can't believe it,
I've never seen this letter before. What is
this? Exactly. And by second semester, I ended up getting another C in physics. I was like, you know what, I can't do this. If you're getting, and these were introductory classes, because for chemical engineering, they went up from Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, and then differential equations. So there's 4 different levels of calculus, all getting harder, exponentially harder. And I was like, if I'm getting C's, very low C's, in introductory classes for my course, I just can't, I'm not going to be able to hack it. I can't, junior year comes, and I'm taking, courses that are 50 times harder. I can't get F's in these courses. It's just not for me.
Was your struggle, was it one of you weren't able to grasp the concepts and do the work, or was it more of this isn't interesting me enough to keep my focus?
It's a little bit of both. I think it was kind of the deciding factor was this wasn't interesting, and that kind of made me not be able to grasp the ideas very well. And it was just kind of a giant tornado of one leading to the other and just increasing to the point where, my grades just weren't very good. And by second semester, I was, incredibly depressed. My GPA was not even a 3.0. I was just feeling absolutely terrible. And I met with my counselor and my another person that worked in the student development office, and we sat down, and they pretty much said, if you're not happy with this major and you're not getting the grades that that we would normally see of a student that's really interested in this, upper B's and A's in the class, then you should probably think about changing your major. And I spent about 3 weeks reflecting on it, and I was like, you know what, I can't stick in chemical engineering. It's just not for me. And I thought back to all of my things that I'd done in the past, all the student government, all of the Model UN, all of the mock trial, and I just thought about my own personal love of, watching movies that revolved around, kind of crime, like, the Law and Order TV shows and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into pre-law because this is actually really interesting. I've always loved history.
It wasn't a new idea for you, correct?
No.
You'd had that before.
And so I changed my major to pre-law, political science pre-law, and after I took a couple of classes, I took a couple of introductory classes actually last semester, my first semester as a sophomore, and I did very well, and I got B pluses and A minuses and everything. I was very happy with myself, and for the first time, I wasn't depressed, which was a wonderful feeling, of actually finding the perfect fit in college after being kind of in the wrong place or being misguided for so long. So it's it's definitely been a journey.
Just to share a connection story, I took AP Calculus my senior year. I graduated from Amelia High School back in 90-something, 97. But AP Calculus, and when I paid attention, which was, I had to be very diligent and very focused to do so, A's and B's. We took our mid-chapter, our section quizzes, then we took our tests at the end, did well. If I had an off day where I just couldn't pay attention or I was doing something else, 1 or 2 days of that, it wrecked the whole chapter for me. I got my first F in high school in AP Calculus. I ended up passing the whole course, but I did not waste the time or the money to take the AP test. But that was frustrating because I excelled at everything else, and here it was just a matter of trying to pay attention. And it's like, well, I'm good at math, but I don't exactly like it, so I don't have to worry about going to that in the future. But it can be a struggle when everything's come easy, or you tend to be naturally gifted at things, and then you have to struggle through something.
Yep.
So it's good. One thing about college is that we talked about it being kind of like a business. You are the customer, so to speak. I know a lot of people go to school and maybe their parents didn't go, so they don't know what the experience is like. And the counselors they trust these counselors to guide them. Not that the counselors do anything wrong, but they kind of just go with the suggestions. What advice do you have for folks going to college that can help them realize that, you're in charge? If you want to change or if you want to explore things, you're free to do so. It just might cost you a little extra money if you're there extra time. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. For the people out there that are looking for, a major, don't be influenced by your parents. Both your parents are doctors, and say, you should go into, pre-med and then go to medical school after that, and you don't want to do that. Don't be, don't feel like you're forced to do that major. You should do what you feel comfortable in, what you really love, and you're there to pretty much make a career for yourself, not for your parents. And so, you just got to do what you love, and even if you want to, become an English major and maybe, not make as much money as, say, for instance, a doctor, but you love what you do, every day that you go to work, you won't feel like you're actually at work. You will feel like you are in pure happiness just because you're doing what you love. So that's my number one rule of advice for someone deciding their major.
Do they offer any tools or opportunities for folks to check out other majors or other kind of avenues?
Yeah. At the University of Dayton, there's actually a program that you can go into if you're undecided. It's kind of a general kind of education course that they have, where if you at least know that you're interested in maybe like a liberal arts or maybe more of the hard sciences, they kind of have a bunch of classes that will go over kind of in brief what each major will do and what the classes will pertain. And so it's really helpful for a lot of my friends that came in undecided and they decided by the end of their second semester of their freshman year, so it was very helpful for them.
I like that approach because a lot of people think you need to declare a major when you start college, and it's. I hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I don't think it's necessary because everybody has a gen ed, has the general education courses, and for the bulk of people, there's this much that's the same, and then there might be a couple different here depending on whether it's a BS or a BA that you're getting. But I don't think there's anything wrong with spending your first year. I know people who spent their first 2 years just getting all the gen ed stuff out of the way, maybe taking some electives and things before they committed to something. What was it like for your friends who did that now that you guys are more than halfway through your second year?
Oh, they're very happy. I myself have changed my major. They pretty much stuck with their major after they did that, and they've been very happy. They've been very successful getting high B's and A's in the class, and they haven't had any problems whatsoever with any of their teachers or their subject material, and they're more than happy to talk about, what they're learning about, and they're able to express it to me, which shows that they really understand what they're being, taught, which is really the goal of going to college. So.
Now, UD is only about an hour away, but
Yep.
Are you on campus up there?
Yes. I'm actually, my dorm is actually, in my opinion, probably the best dorm because not only do we have a really nice kind of eatery indoors, so I don't have to go outside when it's -5 degrees out and freeze and get something to eat, but we're actually right next to most of my classes, a lot of the classes in the Humanities Center as well as the Science Center within 4 minutes from my front door, so it's perfect.
Now, do you guys have underground tunnels like Wright State?
No, unfortunately we don't. So
Darn
if it's really cold, I still got to go outside.
Well, that wouldn't, you guys are the Flyers. That wouldn't make sense anyways. Supposed to go out and brave the elements, right? What outside of classes, courses, figuring out basically what, no pressure, but what path you're trying to set yourself on for the rest of your life. What are some other things that has been offered to you or that you've taken advantage of just to plug in to college itself, to the scene around you, to the folks around you, socially, things like that?
Sure, yeah, definitely. At least at University of Dayton, what is highly recommended to do, what I'm doing is become a community leader, which is offered to sophomores. And the job of a community leader is to help out the RAs in doing their duties, walking the rounds with them, and also planning dorm-wide events. And so far this year, we've been super successful for the first semester. We planned a couple movie nights during the week. We bring out a huge projector and a screen, and we watch movies in the hallway, which is pretty fun. And we actually, the last thing that we did a Christmas cookie contest where we all bought a bunch of cookie dough from the Walmart right next to campus, and we made cookies and stuff, and that was pretty cool. And one of the most proud things that I personally accomplished was that I helped start a entire dorm-wide penny war to help support area families for Thanksgiving. We managed to raise about $650, I believe, and we donated it to all the needy families around Dayton to help pay for Thanksgiving dinners. And I helped organize that, and the winners would get a pizza party, and so that was a pretty good incentive. And our hallway, the dorms actually split up into 3 different hallways. There's the east, middle, and west, and our middle hallway actually won, so we got about 30 pizzas for everybody, which was pretty awesome. So
That has nothing to do with shooting people with pennies in a...
no.
Okay. That was kind of the first thought I had in my head, and I'm a little disappointed it wasn't, but that's okay. What has been your... Now, you've only been in school for a year and a half, so you still got a while to go, but so far, what's been your favorite experience?
Yeah, favorite experience. This is actually kind of interesting because this actually made national news last year.
Okay, good, because I'm saying it's a family show, but it's made national news, so we should be okay.
Yeah, on St. Patrick's Day last year, University of Dayton's notorious for having absolutely crazy St. Patrick's Day parties. And last year, I went with a group of friends. We were planning to get up at 4 in the morning and go walk out in the student neighborhoods. And we got up at 4:30, we went out, and there was about 50 to 60 police cars, all with their lights on, and there was a bunch of police with riot gear on, chasing people, and me and my group of friends ended up being chased by a riot cop with a very large stick that actually hit the stop sign that was right next to us and was like waving it around like a flail and yelling at us to go back in our dorms. And we ended up finding a couple hours later that about 20 minutes before we had got there, a drunken student had thrown a beer bottle at a cop and hit him in the head, and they called officer down, which meant that every single police department within like 10 miles came and shut down.
Been shot.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah, so that was just the craziest thing I've ever been a part of, and it was just, I've never seen something like that happen before.
Like I had water when I woke up. I'm not done anything stupid yet, and you're already getting chased by police in riot gear.
Yeah.
Real quick for folks at home, what is some advice you can give? You got about a minute left. What's the biggest piece of advice you think you can give for choosing a school?
Sure. Yeah. The best piece of advice that I would say is find the school that specializes in what major you're really interested in. For instance, if you really are interested in the music program, find a school that is known for their music program, not just a school that offers it, because it might not have as much money invested in, or the professors, or the connections with local companies that will be hiring for that specific major. So that's probably the definite thing to look out for. Another thing is to definitely look for scholarship opportunities. Different schools offer different amounts of money. For instance, University of Dayton, if you get a 32 on your ACT, you'll get a half scholarship. Now, other schools that might get you more money, that might get you less money, depending on how prestigious the school is. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And don't just take the scholarships offered by the schools. Also look for outside scholarships too as well, because even though those are much smaller in amount, a bunch of those added up will really help out in the long run.
Definitely. Every little bit counts. Every little bit of non-debt is very important. Well, Cameron, thank you for coming to the show,
Thank you very
sir.
much, Kyle.
Nice to meet you. Glad to have you back. Cameron's got to go too, but we got one more guest, or actually a gaggle of guests coming up here. So stick around. We'll be right back. And we're back with our final segment of this February edition of Anderson Speaks. As I mentioned earlier, we have we were trying to figure out what the plural of just guests. I don't want to just say guests. We have a gaggle of guests here. To my right, or stage left, we have with us Aria Walsh. Aria? Hello.
I'm Aria Walsh. Hello.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I am Aria Walsh.
Okay,
Hello.
I know you know your name. Let's hear it. And then Sage, how do you pronounce your last name?
Foot
That's what I was going to say. Can we start that over? Sage Foot.
with an E.
With an E.
Yep.
And then Skylar Fontaine.
Yep.
How y'all doing?
Great.
Good.
All right. And why are you guys here? We're going to talk about water polo, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
And the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Which has been a highlight on the show before. So this is nothing new for our Anderson Township viewers, but you guys have a connection with them, and you guys have done something really cool here, and we want to spread the word in Anderson Township and other areas about the opportunities that are there with the foundation, and just to share your guys' stories. So let's get to know you three ladies a little bit, just briefly. You guys all go to school together,
Yes.
and what school is that?
Milford.
Milford High School.
Milford. Am I on the wrong show? Okay. You are a
I'm a sophomore.
sophomore. You're a
Senior.
senior, and you are.
Freshman.
Oh, look at her, little freshman, so cute. But you all are pretty hardcore. You play water polo. I was telling you before the camera started rolling. I just get exhausted watching that sport because when do you get? You don't ever touch the bottom, do you? Unless someone shoves you down.
It's especially hard being like 6 feet tall and it's 3 feet of water. I'm always getting called for off the bottom. It's terrible.
You get in trouble for touching bottom?
It's a
Yes.
turnover. It's a turnover
Really?
if they catch you, yeah.
We have a lot to discuss today. I don't know anything about water polo, just because I'm scared of it. It scares me, and I love swimming. It's like swimming, but even harder, and people punch you. Who's been punched in the face?
Several times.
Yes, high fives. Pass it down.
Yes.
That's
Hey.
awesome. So you all play for Milford High School.
Yeah.
And then how did you find out about the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation?
Well, we all play for a club team called Moose Water Polo. And Moose's goal is to encompass all the different high schools in greater Cincinnati and let them know that, hey, there's this opportunity to play water polo. And what the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation does is help provide scholarships for play, because it does cost a little bit of money because it's a club program. And
Pay rent pools and stuff.
right, exactly.
You just leave those things laying
And
around.
coaches, got to help them out too. They're out there helping us out.
Heck yeah.
So they just help promote and help fund, and we do fundraisers and galas and all this stuff. It's really cool.
So did the Moose Water Polo Club exist on its own, or was the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation part of that coming into existence?
Without the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation, Moose wouldn't. I don't think it would be a thing.
So it's kind of a big deal. This
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how did you guys find out about it? Did the representative come out? Were you sent to a website? Did it get spread around the team? And you guys are like, hey, it's considered a club team. Everyone knows about club baseball and all that stuff. How did you get connected with it?
Definitely from the team, because there were girls that were older than me that did Moose, and when I started water polo, I fell in love with it. I wanted more of it, and Sage mostly also inspired me to try Moose water polo, and I love it. It's great.
How'd you find out about?
Well, yeah.
Similarly, because I knew you when
Yeah.
you started out when you were a little bit younger.
Yeah.
And
I played well, since it's a club program, they have summer and spring programs, and
Okay.
then the high school levels
Okay.
during the fall. And so what I did is I played off season and then came back and was like, hey, you guys, if you want to play out of season, it's a totally awesome opportunity to like advance your skill level and make new bonds with other people on other teams and just like revel in the community of polo, because it's really unique and it's fantastic. It's unlike any other sport.
And it is fun. People remember, when you're on your school team, you're playing with people you go to school with. Club teams or community teams, like I know I played West Claremont football when I was younger. I get to play with guys who eventually went on to Glen Estee and stuff. It's fun to play with people you don't normally have a connection with, or go to other schools, have other experiences. How many people are part of the club that aren't at Milford with you all?
Majority of them.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of people from Sycamore High School that participate in the spring and summer programs, as well as Mason. And what we're trying to do today is branch out and let everyone know that there is the program available, and if you're interested, come out and play, because it's legit. It's totally worth it. Totally worth your time.
If you're a student at Anderson or Turpin, you can play if you want.
Yeah, especially
You just have to
if
know it
you're,
exists.
Yeah, especially if you're even if you're not a strong swimmer. Like when I started out, I'm a goalie, and when I started out,
How do you swim with all that pad and mask and everything on.
I mean, I don't know.
Gosh.
We don't know. We have the cap and the suit and
Oh, that's
then
it.
our faces.
Is it like soccer? Do you get to wear like a totally different color swimsuit?
Cap, different color cap.
Oh, I guess that's cool, I guess.
But I kind of was a goalie because I wasn't a strong swimmer, but it's good a good prerequisite if you are a good swimmer. So swimmers.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play water polo, it kind of helps if you can swim decent. I mean, I like that. That's good. I'm gonna remember that because if people are talking about, it, I'm like, listen, you need to know.
You
something.
gotta swim.
You need to be able to swim at least halfway okay. And if you can swim with someone on your back, that's better. Where were we? This is so much fun. I just forgot where we were. So you have, you said Sycamore, Mason. What are the age ranges? I mean, is it only high school age, or are there different
we
teams
have
within
underclassmen, like 7th and 8th graders. We have a junior high team, and then we have the 16 under team, and then we have an 18 under team.
Huh.
So
they split up the high school into two
Yes.
teams.
yeah.
How old is the team, or how old is the club?
Like
Fairly.
3 or 4? 3 or 4. 3 or 4 years. 4 years?
They're getting some. Their handlers are over here, and they're getting some information. 3 or 4 years. And have you been involved in every year of that, or?
No, I started out at Milford High School my freshman year, and actually Paul Splitt, he is the assistant coach on Moose Water Polo, and for the girls anyway. And he, since he was the assistant coach at Milford, and then he also coached for Moose, he helped me, get involved with the club program as well as Milford's.
All right, something you said. I have a thought. I'm going to run this by you. This isn't just for girls.
Oh no!
Boys can play water polo
Oh
too.
yeah, 100%. We are equal opportunity.
Just, I mean, I assume that from the beginning. Not everyone will, so just want to point that out.
Yeah.
That if you're a boy or a girl, you can play, but you have to play on that team, the boy or the girl team, right?
Yeah, it's not co-ed.
You can't just like.
Actually,
bored
isn't
and
it co-ed
just-
for under?
For under, yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
but the high school level is a little bit more
Okay.
separate.
So, what is your experience like on the club team versus? And we'll go down the line here. We'll start with Arija. You can smack me afterwards. We're gonna go down the line and just tell me what is the experience like, or how does it compare and contrast to playing for your high school team?
It's very, very different because with Moose, we play more out of state. And in Ohio, I don't want to call out the reffing, but it's very strict in Ohio. And like
That's a good opinion. You're
in
allowed to
other
have that.
states, we can punch someone in the face and get away with it. But in Ohio,
Which states is this? Come on.
it's
Is that only in
very-
water polo, or is that just in general? I need Indiana. Is that one of them? I would assume Kentucky. Go ahead. Sorry.
I like getting exposed to how it's different throughout the nation, and the level of play gets way more intense when you're out in California.
Wow.
It's crazy.
They swim all year round.
Yeah.
They can.
They-
Sheesh.
Yeah.
I can imagine it's somewhat like going from high school to college level in that maybe the people who were, I mean, did you have to try out for the team?
For Moose?
Is this a select team?
I think we just signed up.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, it's just a sign up. It's not really
But I imagine
select.
people who are wanting to do it that much probably are decent at it.
Yeah.
So you do get this kind of pool of
Like,
talent.
there is, like, anyone can sign up, but I believe that there was, like, a roster chosen for the polo team that made it to our Chicago qualifiers for the Junior Olympics, and then to the...
Wait, what?
Oh.
What? Jump the gun on me here. No, because that's next. After we compare this, we want to talk about this awesome news about the Junior Olympic stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So go ahead. So what's been your experience versus the high school experience?
Well, what Moose Water Polo has brought me is a lot of different connections and a lot of different perspectives. Like, since I have made bonds with people from other teams, instead of being like completely like rivalry, it's also helped me progress when it comes to, I don't want to say manipulation, but when I know on a friendly level some of the other teammates who I will be playing in the high school season, it's kind of just like I know their weaknesses and their strong suits, and so it's a mind game, it's a strategy
I'm so
thing.
proud of you.
Thanks.
That is awesome.
So that's what's kind
It's
of different.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, playing the game. You're on Survivor in the water. You can punch people in the face. Skiller.
All right, so high school season is more of just playing for your school mainly, but when you take it to another level, it's more of a what is it? I don't want to say challenge, but you do challenge yourself a lot. It's more higher level water polo, and you get more experience, so much more experience. You're going out of state, you're getting your name out there with this. It's amazing, actually.
I bet is the travel fun?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a highlight for sure, 100%.
Awesome. And it's got to be fun. You're talking about you're representing your high school. Now you get to go out and you get to represent the whole area.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever like 513? Stuff like
Yeah,
that?
we have it on our
Yeah.
suits. We have 513 on our suits.
Yeah.
I'm old and fat, but I'm cool.
Yeah, people are like,
I'm-
there's people
I'm-
from Ohio here?
I'm
what?
on the DL.
Like, what's 513?
Yeah.
Primary numbers. Hello. Okay. This is a family show, so let's be selective with our responses here. What have been some of your in the water experiences, traveling with the team or just anything? Family show.
I need a minute to think.
Was it that one night you guys just stayed up all night watching like Sandra Bullock?
There's a lot of
marathon and
We
went to
watched
the-
Hairspray. In California,
Oh, yeah, we
we
did.
watched Hairspray, and we stayed at this really killer hotel while we were, participating in the Junior Olympics, and we all just like chilled in one of the hotel rooms and watched Hairspray and like danced around and ate pizza, and it was awesome. It was so good. It's so good.
So weird. I did the same thing in college. This is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've mentioned Junior Olympics enough. I think the people at home are just like, just talk about it. Let's talk about it. How does this even happen? How does a club team named after an animal not known for swimming? I mean, they probably can't swim, but most people don't think moose swimming.
Swim, yeah.
How does a club team from the 513 even get an opportunity to try to qualify for the Junior Olympics? Who wants to speak at that? Not all at once, though, because we can understand you.
Sky.
I'm not exactly sure.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
How does the Junior Olympic qualification work, and what did you guys have to do to get there, and how did you end up doing?
Well, we went up to Chicago to play against teams in the area, and we all tried to qualify, obviously. It's like one big tournament, and they take the top 3 teams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Top 3
I think
teams?
they took 6.
6.
But we
Six.
qualified for the gold bracket. But we played teams from like Pennsylvania and St. Louis and Michigan, and as well as Chicago, as well as the Illinois area.
And when did this happen?
Spring.
Last year.
Yeah.
There was a sweet lady on the show I think I talked to about this. It sounds familiar. She'd been on. But so how did you even get into that tournament? Did you have to qualify something here, or you just applied and they had so many teams and you go up and that's kind of what kicks it off?
Well, I'm pretty sure, like, I remember my coach saying, hey, how many girls are interested in this? And then enough girls showed interest in actually going to this qualifier. And so it's more of a motivation thing than like a selective incorporation, you know what I mean?
So you guys went and got into the gold bracket because everyone's like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Sure.
There was,
fun.
I mean, a little more passionate, but yeah.
Get slap in the water.
Do it. Yeah.
So by qualifying for the gold bracket, what does that mean? Is that based on your performance there or your performance leading up to that?
Well, in California, they split them up into different like brackets, but the gold bracket's obviously higher up than the other ones. So they take the top 3 teams, and they're the gold bracket, and they will play more advanced teams out there.
So we were actually competing for like the national title for the Junior Olympics.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Is it like you're playing like a season, or is it all one time? Like, hey, we're going to be here for a week. We're going to play a bunch of matches.
Yep.
Wow.
It's just like one big tournament. Yep.
Is that a little exhausting?
Very
Yeah.
sunburn.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
man.
playing outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It
that's a
didn't
total
even occur to
difference
me. I mean,
too.
it's like below 0 right now. Or so I'm like, well, yeah, they're inside, aren't they? But what was that like playing? I mean, and how did you guys end up doing?
What do you mean? What was it like playing?
I
Like,
mean, what was when you got to that level, and you have a lot of stuff on the line? You know, what was it like going through that? Did you guys struggle with anything? Did you learn any lessons? And ultimately, how'd you end up doing?
there was definitely like the anxiety, but a lot of it was driven by passion, like I said. But you know, it wasn't necessarily like how it turned out. It's just like the progression of events and how we succeeded past even the qualifier and made it in the bracket for a national competition. You know, to actually playing for like a #1 title, and the fact that like we are a small community of polo players competing in like the entirety of California and these girls have been playing since they were like 5. You know what I mean? The fact that we made it from Cincy means that we're pushing the bounds. You know, we're
Awesome.
making that message known. You know, just like small town, then big break. You know, kind of like that.
Awesome.
It was huge for us because, like Sage just said, we just went up there and played against girls that have been playing since they were 5. A lot of us just started in high school, like not even our freshman year, and we beat like half of the teams. Like we have a new set of standards now, and we have like higher goals. And we learned a lot from going out there, and we're ready to go again this year.
What do you attribute your
Excited.
success to? Like, what is your guys' secret? If you don't have a lot of experience, do you guys have just massive amounts of talent that is just untapped when it comes to water polo in Cincinnati? Is it the coaching? Is it the foundation support? What do you think it is?
All of the above.
All of the above, yeah.
It has to do with the
That's an easy
individual.
answer.
Oh, come on. We'll dissect it. We'll get it. We'll get there. No, but it's definitely like I would not have been able to participate in the Junior Olympic tournament if it was not for the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation. They gave me a scholarship
Awesome.
to go. And so like that is why I'm repping, you know, straight.
We only have a couple minutes left, if I saw correctly. So real quick, who's the coach? Who are the coaches?
Nick Helwig and Paul Split.
Okay, we're gonna give them credit for leading you guys there. How far did you guys make it?
38.
38?
Yeah.
Was it 40?
Really good.
Oh, I mean that's awesome.
Yeah.
What are your plans for this year?
Busting it out. We're going to be doing the spring and summer season, and we're going to be going to the next qualifier and hopefully make it to the next California 2014.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And when you do, this is the first place you come back and tell your story.
You got it.
Deal? Deal? Pass that one down for me.
Deal.
Straight.
Deal.
Right.
How much time we got? It's about 1 minute. So, who plans on, well, this is more appropriate for you. Who plans on taking this into college? And have you pursued that?
Yeah, I've applied to all my schools. I applied to Gannon University in Pennsylvania, and that's my one for collegiate level polo. But this Junior Olympic prerequisite, like we were talking about earlier, has really put a 1-up on my qualification for collegiate level polo.
Awesome. We're out of time. Yes or no? Play in college?
Yes.
Get paid? Good? Okay,
Yes,
Awesome.
definitely.
All right, this has been Aria, Sage, and Skylar with the Moose Water Polo Club, which big shout out to the Jose Cerda Aquatic Foundation for all their support. Thank you for joining us. We got to go. We're out of time. We'll see you next month.